it, hopeless so it seems. Eyes closed, canvas open wide to embrace your dreams. Sometimes you gotta take a loss just to get the win. Like lots of sin was popping in like oxygen when boxes wet. Focus on the mental, never lose like a smooth instrumental. Better choose on the move in a pinto. Choose what I get to, never lose move on the move, but it's simple. Never give up and we winning it maybe. We just keep winning, we conquering daily. Envision that pay me, it's never to sway me. Indigenous, maybe we winning this crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity. This your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity. This your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity. This your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity.
Here we go, baby. Yeah, it is time. It is here. It is now. It is the Lion Villain Report. Welcome one, welcome all. I am your host, Russell Wayne, talking football. Most importantly, we're going to talk some Lions football right here today. And we are broadcasting live into the Lions Villain Squad Facebook page. We have 52,000 villains strong right there. Thank you for following and sharing and liking all of the content that comes from that page, as well as Detroit Lions News Podcast. Joe Chap and the boys are over 77,000 now. And thank you for letting us broadcast into your spot. We are on YouTube, on JC Sports, and the Villain Squad YouTube page. Please subscribe and do all of this stuff right there. Like this video. If you're watching it and you like football content, then like this video. It's free and it helps. We're also broadcasting live into the Roku channel. That is the Huddle Sports Network on Roku. How are you doing today? That's how join the conversation on any one of those platforms. And I ask you, how you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing today? So let's get into the comments right here. I love it when Fred Peterson and Dwayne are even here before I hit the music. Good morning. It's a great day to be a Lions. One pride. Dwayne King, good morning to all division champions. Davies in the house. Welcome one, welcome all. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me just fine. And this is faith, family, and football in that order. And that is why I can say we even invite Bear fans, Packer fans, and Viking fans on there. And we don't hate them. We don't hate you as people. We just get to hate on your team right there. But it's faith, family, then football. So we care about the person, but we can hate on the team. So with that being said, welcome. Welcome to the program today. And we are in the midst of preseason battles, preseason roster battles. And there are going to be some tough cuts for the Detroit Lions. I got a couple questions that I want to ask you to. How many spots do you think are up for grabs? And what are the injuries? Has Hendon Hooker shown you enough to win the backup job? And another question I want to get to is, what is the longest field goal do you think that Legatron is going to boost through? So with that being said, let's start with the injury part right here. I'm going to try something in here. I'm going to throw some Dan Campbell, what he had said yesterday at the press conference about the injuries.
I'm just wondering, with Khalif Raymond, I mean, it seems like it's a guy that has universal trust in this this building. Why do we not talk about Raymond as your number three? Is it simply a body type issue?
Yeah, well, yeah, I hope I haven't been the one who have, like, he is receiver 3 right now. I think Gibbs, our plan is to get him going next week. All right. He's trending the right way. And we're hoping day after the Pittsburgh game, I think we're going to get a lot of guys back. I mean, we're shooting to get, like, Skipper's going to be down with this ankle, all right, this week, but he's been going all through camp. So, but we're shooting for Skip, we're shooting for Zeitler, Laporta, Gibbs, Rodrigo, and I think we may start Reeder up too. Just start working him in individuals. So we're about to get a whole group of guys back, hopefully Sunday. And then they'll get, next week's practice before we get ready for the Rams, and then we do Rams practice. So,
yeah. So, with that being said, right there, thank you, Dan Campbell. And on the way up, we're going to bite a Nick. I'm sorry if I had that in the bad spot, but I wanted you to hear what Dan Campbell had to say if you didn't get a chance to hear that. And what I heard right there is that all of these starters are slated to be back right after the last preseason game. Now, I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if he's sandbagging the injuries. I'm not saying that these injuries aren't real injuries, but I think that these injuries that the starters have suffered are things that would possibly be something that you could play through if it wasn't just preseason, because they really wanted to look at these other guys that are competing for the bottom end of this roster. So, Dan Campbell said this right there. He's talking about Hendon Hooker right here. And right now he's believing that, Sudfield is ahead of Hendon Hooker at this point. I don't know if you think that would be dumb or anything, but let me pull up some of this stuff that they said about Hendon Hooker. Is at 9:15. I got this queued up right here, and here we go. So Dan Campbell is a draft and develop kind of guy right there. And let's not pull any punches right here. It's like if Hendon Hooker was the type of quarterback that needed to start, it would be, we would be raising some eyebrows right here. And Dan Campbell values the reps. He values the practice right now. And that some of that felt like the fire, like the way that he said that stuff, that was he does that where he uses kind of like a tone of voice to light a fire underneath one of the players, let you know that there is a real battle going on right there for the backup quarterback job. And at this point in time, I think that it's Hendon Hooker's job to lose. And going back in with how he feels about keeping, 3 quarterbacks on the roster just to have another set of eyes inside that room. There you go. That's Brett. That is Dan Campbell on Hendon Hooker coming in and possibly getting some good reps, man. They'd love to get him in there and get the start. He did talk a little bit earlier in that same press conference about waiting and really seeing how these 2 practices go, and that when he talks to us in a couple of days, he'll probably let us know whether Hendon Hooker is going to be starting or not. And it's something that we really wanted to see. I know I wanted to see it last week against the Kansas City starters, but I think sometimes that we have over zealous expectations for these guys. And he alluded to the fact that last week Hendon Hooker lost a bunch of practices due to the concussion and everything. He didn't think that it was fair to throw him out there to for at the beginning of the game. And he takes those things into consideration more than Fan does. Fan has a tendency to want to push these guys out there, and I think that they like where Hendon Hooker is developing. I think that Hendon Hooker's already at a spot to where his athleticism and the way he's progressing in the offense can put him out there to where if something were to happen to Goff, you could get a couple. If he keeps developing, you can get quality snaps out of him. I wouldn't expect him or want him to try to take over the game, or take over the quarterback position. We don't want that. We want to win a Super Bowl this year, and Jared Goff gives us the best chance to win the Super Bowl. But Hendon Hooker sliding in there to be a solid backup quarterback and really learn how to play the position to take his value from here to here as it comes to being a backup quarterback or maybe even a starting level quarterback in this league. He ain't there yet. Hendon Hooker ain't there yet. So let's see what we got here in the comments right here. Stay healthy. Salam says, stay healthy. If we stay healthy, we win. That's true for a lot of teams. Salem, is it Salem? Yeah, there we go. Salem says that wide receiver 4 is the 6th option. So let's not get carried away with that. And that's fair. That's fair. We were talking about that a little bit yesterday, that are we making too much out of this wide receiver 4 spot right here? Dan Campbell said that Khalif Raymond was the guy, but at the number 3 position. He said he is the number 3 wide receiver, and that's something that we've been echoing the entire offseason. It's like, who's gonna be in that number 3? Well, it's like it's Raymond. Did we just forget about Khalif Raymond? It's like all he does is make plays. Grant, albeit he's not out there all the time, but when he's out there, he's making plays. That's why they re-signed him to a big deal. He's a punt returner. It's good. So Salem's right here, where he's like, the wide receiver 4 really is the 6th option when you really think about it. And it depends on who else you have out there. If they keep Shane Zylstra, that guy is not going to really be out there blocking too much, but he's kind of like a receiving specialist, a big body receiver. He might only get 20 targets the entire year, but there'll be really, really important targets right there. I mean, the 6th option, that is, when you think about Sam Laporta being in there, maybe even Jahmyr Gibbs being thrown in there, it's like, come on. Can you not hear me? Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, give me a hell yeah. Because here we are, it's the 16. If you can't hear me, I don't want to be not heard. Can you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? Hello? Hello. Somebody throw a comment in there. It says that I'm coming through. Yes. Okay, cool. I thought that nobody was hearing me. And am I too loud? Too soft? How's it sound? Does it sound good? Does it sound good? Am I too loud? Do you want me to back it off a little bit? Am I screaming at you? Oh, you can't hear the sound from Dan Campbell. Yeah, man, I'm sorry. Well, that sucks. So you can't hear this? Wow. Okay. Well, that experiment didn't work, did it? Let's see. Oh, well. I'll stop the screen. We won't do that anymore. You couldn't hear that? Okay. Maybe I'll try something different. I was trying to get you some Dan Campbell audio. I'm trying to get into the high technology right here, and it did not work. It was a fail right there. But let's get to the injury update, what he was talking about. Let me see if I can just find something that I can read to you right here. But as far as him talking about the injury updates, he's saying that after the preseason game on Sunday that he is counting on getting a lot of these guys back from injury, like Jahmyr Gibbs, probably in the middle of the week, Terrion Arnold, Kevin Zeitler. He even said DJ Reader is going to be returning to practice, pulling him off the PUP list on Monday. So that was the first part of the injury update. And then it was Dan Campbell on Hendon Hooker saying that he wanted to get Hendon Hooker some snaps this week, but because he didn't get the important reps in practice last week because of the concussion, that he didn't want to throw him to the Wolves out there in the Kansas City game, and the other guys that were playing with him. And he wants to see how he practices this week before he decides whether he wants to start Hendon Hooker on Saturday's game. Which, by the way, Saturday's game, we are also going to be attempting the live. The live, we're going to be there live. I'm going to be broadcasting the game live right there. Probably just some sound in there. I don't know. I'm not going to take any chances, but exclusively on the Villain Squad YouTube channel, we're going to be broadcasting the game, and you'll get to see my live reactions. We'll be able to interact with each other, maybe even talk a little bit of trash about some of the other teams in there. So I'm inviting you guys to come out. The first Villain Cast, the very first ever Villain Cast, 12:30. The game coverage will start. We can get in here, get all ramped up, maybe get yourself some of those energy drinks or coffee, whatever it is that you get in the morning to get you going. I don't know what that go-to thing is for you. I like the ghost stuff. I got the Swedish fish flavor today. I'm excited to try the Swedish fish flavor in there. But it takes more. It takes more. So what is the longest field goal that Jake Bates is going to make this year? And this was a question that was posed through Pride of Detroit, and I think it's funny. It's a funny question, but it's a real question because Jake Bates is a weapon. This guy, I think this year, and here's my take on it right here, and I want to know what you feel about it. The longest field goal that you think Jake Bates is going to make this year, because for two things that need to happen when somebody's kicking a field goal, I know it's just like, yeah, just put him out there, let him kick a 75-yarder. But the thing is, you have to be in a situation that even calls for a very long field goal. And you know how Dan Campbell loves to go for it. Anyway, but I do think that there's going to be a scenario or three during the season where it comes at the end of a half, or let's just get up here and let's give it a shot. I think that Jake Bates, because Dan Campbell's big ego, he's going to get at the end and he's going to break the NFL record with the longest field goal ever. And it takes a coach to be able to try that shot, at the end of a game. I don't think that you're just going to try it. Because if you think about it, a 67-yard field goal, I mean, you wouldn't even be on their side of the field yet. You'd be snapping the ball on your side of the field trying to kick a field goal. And Jake Bates has got a boot. This kid can, he's got the distance to hit from 70. But the question would be, will the Lions be in a scenario that could call for a long field goal like that? So what do you think? 68 yards. That's what Davey calls out. I love it. That would be the record, right? It's 67 yards is the big one, right? 62-yard game winner. I would like that. You know, how close can you get? You want to get your kicker closer? No, not if you're Jake Bates. Not if you're the Legatron. You don't want to get him closer. Seems like the closer he gets to the field goal, the worse his percentage is. Like, he can hit 60-yarders all day. Get him into the 40 to 50 ones and extra points. There's where he struggles. It's like the weirdest dynamic ever. Oh, Scott Young, I can't put your comment up there for that, but I feel your sentiment right there. The Lion, the bad guy, John Kapler's in here. Is like, I do not want to see Jake Bates kick a 60-plus yarder against the Steelers this Saturday. You definitely want to see a 60-yarder. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. I think that he's going to get in a couple of situations. It happens. You get the ball with, 20 seconds left and a half. You're on your 15-yard line. And all of a sudden, Amon-Ra St. Brown catches a 15-yard over, gets out of bounds. 11 seconds left on our own 40. Incomplete pass. They say, what do we go for? We go for it? We go for that 67-yard field goal right there? That would be 77. So we need like 5 more yards. Then he does another 8-yard pass, gets to like the 46-yard line, our own 46. He calls a timeout. Yeah. All right, guys. We're going to send out Jake Bates. It's the end of the half. What do we got to lose? Sends him out there. 6 seconds left. Kick a 67-yard field. I think that scenario could play out. Don't you? I mean, that's not unrealistic. If you have a weapon, then, that he's going to have opportunities to fire that weapon. Now, I don't really predict Dan Campbell to really change that much of his fourth down aggressiveness. He is what he is. He is what he is. As a matter of fact, he's got a team that's going to be even better at going for it. They have a mentality that they're going to go for it. If it's with 4th and 2, the analytics say you have a better chance of winning the game and converting a 4th and 2 than you do to punt the ball away and play defense and, throw caution to the wind. It's a higher percentage play to get the 4th and 2, keep the drive going, keep the band rolling down the field. Now, that's always met with criticism. Because here's the thing with 4th down plays. 4th down plays are like, you're going to forget really, really, really fast about all of the times that the 4th downs worked the minute that one doesn't. And that's why you get a lot of people in there, oh, Dan Campbell's an idiot. I can't believe he needs to stop being so aggressive, unless the aggressiveness works. And then you're like, those people usually just be quiet during those things. They want to see what happens first. I got an idea. I can just be quiet while he doesn't. And if he gets it, I can be happy. If he doesn't get it, then I can say, you're stupid. It's like, you got an aggressive coach. When it gets into 3rd and 7, you realize that they got 2 plays to get that. If they can get 4 yards on that 3rd and 7 and it's 4th and 3, that there's a good chance that Dan Campbell's going to go for it if he's anywhere on the field. So why even have Jake Bates? Well, there are also going to be scenarios where you can be aggressive with a kicker. Like I said, if Dan Campbell gets the ball with 20 seconds left on his own 15-yard line, and he knows that he only needs 30 yards to get into the Legatron's range, you can be aggressive that way. All right, here we are. I'm in 60. I mean, you get to the, 40, 45-yard line, your own 45, you can be kicking field goals. this year. You couldn't have done that with Badgley. You couldn't have done that with Patterson or any of these other guys out there. You got a weapon in Jake Bates. He at least gives you a shot to get 3 points where you wouldn't have had a shot to get 3 points. And I do think that those scenarios will come up this year. And by the way, yes, Jake Bates is the kicker. I don't know if you knew that yet, but they had this illusion of a competition. There's no competition. It's Jake Bates. It's Legatron. And I already know we got called out on that. We didn't make up Legatron. There's another kicker named Zerline that was called Legatron on a different team. But I just want you to know, I don't care if you had that name first. We're the villain. The villain says this: know your role and shut your mouth. We stole your name. We get Legatron now. You know why? Because we had Megatron. You didn't have Megatron, so sit down. We stole that name fair and square. Jake Bates is now Legatron. We're the villain. We're the villain. Deal with it. Deal with it. Got called out on that. Dwayne says 60 plus. Whatever happened to Kickalicious? Wasn't he the guy that was like, kicking field goals from his boat? Doing trick shots? Oh, I remember Kickalicious. That dude was awesome. Oh, Steve, the resident Packer fan in here. How are you doing this morning? It's crazy. Wherever I go, I ask myself, the Detroit Lions are real. It's because I know I'm a Packer fan, and I said they are a team to contend with. They are no joke. And that's probably one of the reasons Steve loves to come on to this show right here, because I, too, am a believer in the Green Bay Packers. I, too, am a believer in the fact that the Lions are going to have to pack a lunch every time that they go to face Green Bay. And I do realize that in a grudge match that you win some and lose some. I do believe that Green Bay Packers are good enough to beat the Detroit Lions on occasions. I do not think that they are so much. I'm not scared of the team at all. I think that the Lions are good enough to beat any team in the NFL. I don't think they're going to go 17-0, but I believe that the roster matches up well against any team. So that's what I'll say about that. I'm not an unbeliever. Jordan Love made me a little more of a believer, even in that stupid preseason game. It was only 2 for 2, right? But, God, he throws a pretty ball. He throws a pretty ball, and that ball that he threw was so accurate that if he was covered by Jalen Ramsey or any of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, it wouldn't have mattered because the ball was thrown so perfectly. So, kudos to the Packers for having a quarterback. He's still got to prove that he can do it again. 8 games, 10 games, or whatever it was. He was not good the first 6 weeks of the season, but he showed progression. And that's the scariest thing in football, is progression. We talk about it all the time. Guten Tag, villains. It's a great day to be a Lions fan. Hi, Russell. That's me. That's me. And Elise Memes going out there. You are so quick. You on your makes. That Oprah, I couldn't believe that was all of a sudden a meme. You can have 1,000 yards. You can have 1,000 yards. You can have 1,000 yards. Love it. I love it. What a great piece of content that you made. Elise Memes, the queen of memes. I got to be careful what I say on here, because sometimes a meme will fly out of my mouth because Elise will catch it. Oh, Salem, we probably split with the sad sackers. I mean, that's what we like. Anytime you can get a sweep against a good team, that's always good. And you definitely don't want to get swept. Steve says, here's a question for everyone. Will there ever be another undefeated team in the NFL? Oh, it's so hard now, Steve. It's so hard now. I mean, that Patriots team was so close, and then they fell short at the Super Bowl. I mean, that really just shows you teams are just too good now. You know, nothing. I wouldn't take anything against like the 70s Pittsburgh Steelers or, you know, the 85 Bears or anything, because they won those Super Bowls, or the teams that were that, you know, I think before the 90s or even before the salary cap, is the talent is so much better now across the board. Now, I'm not saying, I mean, there's great players that are going to be great players. I think Barry Sanders would have been great in any era. You know, Walter Payton would have been great in any era. But the overall talent, like from 1 to 53, I mean, it's so much better. The guys are so much faster, so much stronger nowadays. And it's largely in part to that era of football. You know, that era of football in the 80s, 90s, 70s, 60s, like it's like you breed a new generation of like super fans, and then somebody that will dedicate their entire life to it from the ground up. You know, you got these super fans, and then after you're seeing another generation and then another generation, you know, the preparation just becomes better, right? I mean, in the 60s and 70s, 50s, you know, back in that time, some of these guys had, you know, when they got done playing their game, they had to go to the factory at night. I mean, NFL didn't always produce a bunch of millionaires that played a game. Back in the day, they used to just play, and then they'd go to their factory job at night. You know, it was just a little bit of extra quid. So that's something to think about with that. But no, Steve, I don't think that there's, I mean, you never say never. I just don't see it in this NFL anymore. There's more teams, there's more games. The players are even better. So I wouldn't, I'm not the kind of person that would say never, but if you just ask me gun to my head, I would say no. I mean, I would say no. I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime. That's a better way to put it. We will probably split with the Sad Sockers. The question right here. Oh, we got two more right here. No, I didn't think that the league would allow it. And Steve says, will Gibbs surpass Barry Sanders' status? Now Barry didn't have the O-lines that Gibbs has today. Oh gosh, that, you know, will he surpass the Barry Sanders status? Will he become the greatest running back of all time? I mean, it's his second year, Steve. I'm a Jahmyr Gibbs fan, probably just as much as anybody out there. But is Gibbs going to become the greatest running back of all time? Gosh. I mean, maybe with this offensive line, you know, he might be able to put those numbers up. I think that he may be able to pass Barry Sanders' numbers. But I mean, come on, man. Barry changed the game. He changed the way people would try to play him. If you ever watched him run, very few people that watched Barry run would ever try to take him out of that top running back spot, because it was just crazy. I mean, as much as I love Sweetness was a thorn in everybody's side, but it's like Barry was just one of one. He was just him. He was just him, and everybody knew it. Everybody knew it at the time when he was running. And even, you know, the people that, you know, compare the Barry and Walter, I mean, you're talking about the best from one generation and the best from another generation. But Barry was just, you know, he's definitely the best that Detroit's ever seen. So I don't know, Steve. That's a great question. That's a great question. One of the things that Brad Holmes was talking about that it stuck in my head when I heard his press conference was he said, they asked him, they said, how many roster spots are actually available? And he said 5, maybe 6. 5, maybe 6. That's not a lot of spots that are available. And I think that when you're talking about these injury updates, a lot of these guys, Laporta, Gibbs, like he seemed very, very confident that all those guys were going to be available for week 1. And I think that their absence had more to do with them trying to find who these 5 or 6 roster spots that are left on this team. That's not a lot of roster spots, guys. I mean, we were talking about all these different, oh yeah, this battle and that battle. It's like, wow. I mean, 53 roster, you're talking they have 47 or 48 roster spots that they've already accounted for. And the rest of these 40 guys that they're looking at are fighting for 5 or 6 of these roster spots. So what do you think about that? That Dan Campbell says that there are only 5 or 6 roster spots available right now. Now that can branch off in a whole bunch of different ways, though, because when you get to the back end of the roster, it isn't like linebacker versus linebacker. I mean, you got positions competing against each other, like a wide receiver. I mean, are you going to keep a number 5 wide receiver, or are you going to keep a number 5 defensive end, or are you going to keep a 3rd quarterback, or are you going to keep a 7th defensive back? Or I mean, there's so many different scenarios that can branch off in the back end of the roster, because none of the roster spots that are going to matter day 1 are available at the back end of that roster. We know who the starters are, we know who the depth pieces are, and we know who the pieces are behind them. But now we get into the back end of this roster is like, can you play special teams? Can you contribute to more than one spot? That's why Sion Vaki is never really going to ever have to worry about a roster spot on this team. Because even if he doesn't make it as a running back, he's a core special teamer. They drafted him to start in special teams with David Phipp. So, interesting. Who do you think that these back end of the roster guys are? I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. I got to look at some of these things. I love this time of year. I don't know if everybody loves this time of year, because the beginning of the preseason is wore off by this time, right? The fact that we're seeing live action with our football team has wore off by this time. We want to see our starters. We can't wait for September 8th at 8 p.m. to start so we can watch the Detroit Lions play a football game with the starters, with a whole bunch of people we haven't even really seen in camp, which I think is on purpose. I think that that's more on purpose than you would think. I'm not saying that these guys ain't injured. I'm not saying Laporta ain't injured. I'm not saying that these guys aren't actually going through what their injuries are. What I'm saying is, I'm going to ask myself a question, is if this was the regular season, would they have held all of those guys out of practice? Would they have done any of those different things during the season when you need the guy? Would Sam Laporta have sat out the last 2 weeks if he was needed to play against the Rams? And the answer is no. You wouldn't have. They would have played. They would have. I think that all of those guys that were injured, the Zeitlers, the Gibbs, Terrion Arnold, Rakestraw, all of those guys, that if it was a game on Sunday, that these guys wouldn't have missed. They have real injuries that they are rehabbing. But the thing is you're going to rehab injuries through the entire season. All of these guys are going to get injured. And a lot of these guys can play through. Amon-Ra played through like 3 games or whatever with his chest muscle completely torn off the bone. I was like, whatever. On the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. Right? So it's like preseason injuries, and I'm sure that you could attest to this too, Steve. Even with the Packers. It's like Rashawn Gary, is he out there repping, risking all of the big injury right now? Are they throwing him out there in games? Got to get him some reps in there because he's in a big competition, right? They don't do that. You're good guys. I've always said this. Preseason games, you can tell more of a story about where the team is by who's not playing in the second quarter than who is playing. Guys throw up stats in preseason. It's fine. Like I said, I don't get too high or too low. That's why this Caleb Williams hype is just out of control. Guy goes 6 for 13, but they want to micromanage and look within those. Man, look at all these incompletions that could have been completions. It wasn't his fault. All these excuses. It's preseason, guys. And then you want me to get excited because he escaped out the pocket and scored a rushing touchdown? Okay. Yay. My guy scored a touchdown in preseason. I mean, I could say the same thing about Hooker. How about that touchdown run against the bag boy and the drywaller? Oh, look at Hooker scoring TDs. Oh, my God, he's Patrick Mahomes. That's what cracks me up about Bear fan. Now, Packer fan is more of that's more of an elitist thing. We are good because we were good. And even if we're not good, at least we were good. Peasant, I am high on the throne. They named the trophy after our coach. Yeah, why don't you shut your mouth, jabroni? The villain says, know your role and shut your mouth, jabroni. I don't want to hear it. And, Viking fan is actually, I can identify with a Viking fan more than any other team in the division. It's just because, stealing defeat from the jaws of victory. They've won more NFC titles but have no Super Bowls. Like, God, I feel that. Oh, we were so close. Hey, we technically won a championship. What are you talking about? We got a Super Bowl. And it's like, and I want to just tell them, be like, no, just stop. Don't claim that Super Bowl. Don't do that. Don't do that. You claim the things that you can shove in somebody else's face. Don't be claiming that. I mean, I love the fact that the Lions won an NFC or won a championship in 1957, but I wasn't alive. I got no pride in that. We have a rich history as long as it was before 1960. It's like, come on, man. That was longer ago than I've been alive. Like, I can't subscribe to that. I mean, I claim this right here. If you want to know, right here, I claim this right here. The NFC North Division champions, right? A lot of people would tell me, oh, they haven't won the division in 30 years. We've never won the NFC North. This is the first time. And if you're a Lion fan and you're back there claiming the NFC Central as the NFC North, shame on you. Stop it. Stop it. Because if that's the case, then a team that's not even in our division, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, has won the division more recently than the Detroit Lions. Do not claim the NFC Central championship. That was, that's back in the day. That was back in the Barry Sanders day, right? That was too long ago. They called it the NFC Central at that time. It is a division win. So you want to say we haven't won the division, I guess you would be telling the truth. But don't go back that far. Don't be the Bears. They got that 85 win. That's they can stick that feather right in their cap. But it's like, after a while, even as even Bear fan, I mean, would tell you, I know that Bear Down Mike and Mike the Bear fan, they kind of get sick of their fan base going back to that 85 all the time. You don't want to be claiming that stuff that far back. It's great to have the history. You want to put your trophies up there and claim that. I do love the fact that the Lions have some championships that were way in the past, but I'm not going to use it as an argument now. It's like, yeah, they were really good a long time ago. Brent says 100%, Russ. Steve says Rashad Gary and Van Ness are the new Dudley boys of the NFL, and they bring in the tables. Yeah, that's and those are the things right there. Those guys, you don't even have to worry about being on your team, and I think that's what happens with, Dan Campbell and the way that he designs this roster. He says there's only 5 or 6 spots left on this roster right now that are up for grabs. And if you're doing quick math right here, let's do that math right there. We got 90 people on the roster, right? And then minus the 6, we got 84 minus, let's do the 53 minus 6. So you're going to leave yourself 47. You got 47 roster spots that are taken up. 90 minus 47. You got 43 players. You got 43 players competing for 6 spots. What did Dan Campbell say when he came here? Besides, on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. What did he say when he came here? That competition is where they want to take it. They want every roster to be built off of competition. And I'm sorry, it's like these preseason games are cool, but the roster spots are won with consistent practice that also shows up in the preseason game. That's how those guys are going to make the team. I know that Isaiah Williams made the flashy plays. I know that Caden Davis made the flashy plays. But as you saw on some of the roster predictions yesterday, it's like Donovan Peoples-Jones is a pro. He's been here. He's got more experience. And let's be honest, if they let Donovan Peoples-Jones out that door, somebody's going to pick him up through the waiver. If you cut Donovan Peoples-Jones, someone's probably going to claim him. Now, if you cut Caden Davis, there's a chance that he would clear waivers and be able to make it through the practice squad. Isaiah Williams, Believe it or not, I know that he had the big game in preseason, but a whole bunch of teams have a bunch of guys that are like that showed out in the preseason games that are going to get cut from their team anyway. Look at Tom Kennedy. If it was off of preseason production, Tom Kennedy would have been a starter on our team 3 years ago. All the guy does is kill preseason. Tom Kennedy. But he's the type of guy that's going to clear waivers. Not because Tom Kennedy ain't good. I'm not saying another team couldn't pick him up and do something with him. But Tom Kennedy's good for this team. And that's the funny thing. You're like, who? Tom Kennedy? Tom Kennedy is one of those practice squad guys that he's been on the practice squad. He's been at every meeting for the last 3 years. Tom Kennedy was technically part of the NFC championship team, or the NFC championship, the guys that went into that game last year. The practice squad guys count, right? So Tom Kennedy's been with the team. Now, he'll clear waivers. He's a guy that's probably going to get cut. And he's going to have that conversation with them and says, hey, dude, we know we love your work. You're going to clear waivers. And if you don't, good luck wherever you go. But when you do, you always got a spot on this practice squad. Put a little cheese in your pocket. And you get to practice with the guys. And he's part of that family. And no, I don't think that another team would pick Tom Kennedy up. So, yeah, Brent says it shows 14 people are on YouTube. Where are all the comments? Comment. Yeah, I want to hear your questions, concerns. Maybe I don't say it enough. Maybe I don't say that. Like, I want to join a conversation. I mean, I love listening to myself talk. The villain always has something great to say. But most of the time he has some things that are not so great to say. But the villain loves the questions. The villain loves the comments through here. And he loves the likes. The villain loves likes and shares. So if you're watching the program right now, even if you don't like me, can you hit like on the broadcast? Unless you hate me. You can put a thumbs down on there if you want. But hit the heart button. Hit the like button. I mean, if you're on here, you obviously like football. I mean, we even got Packer fans and Bear fans on here. And we're getting along. We're getting along just fine. We got about 4 minutes left before we turn into a pumpkin on the Huddle Sports Network as they're getting ready for Ken and Ken in the morning for their 11 a.m. show. It's an 11 a.m. Bear down Homer Bear show. Actually, it's kind of like this show, only with Bear instead of Lions, because I'm kind of a Homer Lions fan. And I'm not too ashamed to admit it. We're kind of homers. We actually like our team this year. The Lions won pride. The villains are feeling confident this year. Russell should make some of them garlic pepper Parmesan hot wings. Oh man, I'd love to hang out with you guys for a game. There's going to be a time when Steve and I are going to hang out, because I am going to make my way up to Lambeau Field for one of these away games one of these years. They're on the list. My son and I are going to hit all 32 of these stadiums in the NFL. Actually, it would be 30, because they have a couple people to share them. So get in there. Make sure that you go to all those away games. Because I'll tell you what, if you ever go to an away game, it's such a cool perspective. Because, you're a homer for your team, but you get to see how, 50,000 guys, fans from a completely different team, how they fan, their little chants and the things that get them into it, And, the fans usually talk trash to you, we haven't even ran into very many buttholes that gave us a real hard time. Last year we went to Baltimore and the Lions got destroyed in that game. We drove all the way to Baltimore getting our asses kicked. So the guy that I went with, Josh, shout out to Josh Mushkalau. We went down into their beer spot, and we were checking our fantasy football teams, kind of depressed, talking about the drive home. And these Baltimore fans bought us a couple beers each, and was just, they were really cool to us. And, oh yeah, I bet you guys feel awful, dude. We'd love to buy you some beers. And the beers there were like $22 for the tall boys. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So God, they spent $80 to try to make us feel better. So that's really awesome. Shout out to the Baltimore Raven fans, and for being hospitable last year. And we didn't run into very many trolls whatsoever. I mean, there were some people that were, doing the troll stuff, but it was all in good fun. That was really cool. And Minnesota is a very, very cool place to go watch a football game. And they have if you haven't seen the Skull chant in person, then I can see why you make fun of it, right? But once you see how that fan base interacts, it's actually pretty cool to be to watch those Vikings all dress up in all their medieval gear and get all fired up and fire the cannon. And yeah, it's a pretty cool spectacle when they set up that Skull chant. So that's all I'll say about the away ones. But you should go to an away game. If you're going to go to an away game, which one do you want to go to this year? They're out in not Candlestick Park out there in San Francisco. I'll always call it Candlestick. That would be a cool one to go to. That one was a little too expensive for us. We're going to go to the Indianapolis game in November, my son and I. And that's going to be fun to do that. So as we're losing these Ken and Ken people, we're going to welcome the people over from the Huddle Sports Network. I don't know where you're watching on now. We got JC Sports in the house, Lions Villain Squad Facebook page, the Detroit Lions News Podcast, and as well as our YouTube page on the Villain Squad. So welcome all those people over, or the tens and tens of views that we're getting here. Brent says that we had to start at the bottom. Now it's time that we have to see what we have in the Lions. Lion fans should be very confident. They should be very confident because this team is stacked from top to bottom. There's going to be some very hard, especially along the defensive line cuts that are going to be made. The defensive line was so deep that I think that we're going to have to cut a couple good guys. I think that's why you saw some, like the prediction from Pride of Detroit was that they only kept 4 wide receivers. And that should tell you right there, if they keep a lower amount of wide receivers, how they feel, about even running like 3 wide receiver sets. Because I think the wide receiver on the Lions team is a lot like the linebackers. A lot of people will go, well, they're only going to keep, 4 or 5 linebackers. And that's because they don't play 3 linebackers at a time. I mean, there's usually at the most 2 linebackers out there at a time. And as far as wide receivers go, there's very rarely 3 wide receivers out there. And when they do, that's Khalif Raymond in that 3 wide receiver set. And it's because of the tight ends and the pass catchers and other spots. We have other spots to go with our playmakers. So, Chance says, I went to the Lions versus Bronco game last year, and in the stands, and the dude right behind me paid a Bronco fan $50 to take his jersey off, and he did it. Wow. Take that stupid jersey off, and I'll give you $50, and it worked. Wow. I'll be there with you. Lions take over Indy. Let's go and have a beer. Sounds like a great idea. That will happen. That will happen. I'll introduce you to all my fantasy football buddies. That's a fantasy football trip that we make every year too. That's awesome. Yes, Chance. Let's keep that on the calendar. Let's keep reminding me, and we'll meet up, and we'll definitely have a beer. Hopefully, it's not a $22 beer. Fred Peterson said, wife and I wanted to go to the Chicago game, but it's in December and the drive would be questionable that time of year. I want to go to Soldier Field before they rip it down. That is a good point, man. That is a good point. I don't want to go out there in December either, but I would like to see Soldier Field. I didn't even think about that. I might have to do two away games this year. And that's a scary game. I tell you what, from a roster standpoint, the Bears have a really strong roster. But I'm still not scared of them. But I have to admit the other positions that we have or the other positions, the other teams that are in the North, they got better. You know, yeah. I mean, you could even make an argument for Minnesota being good this year because I think people sleep on Sam Darnold. I'm one of those. I'm not a Sam Darnold. I'm not gonna, die on a hill for him. But Sam Darnold hasn't played or had a real good opportunity anywhere he's been. Like, I think he was in San Francisco last year, but he wasn't getting the opportunity there. This is a good opportunity for Sam Darnold. And they got Justin Jefferson. They're going to have TJ Hawkinson. They got Oliver. They got Aaron Jones, who catches the ball good out of the backfield. And they got a really good offensive line. And they have Brian Flores. So look for, and I can't even believe that. I wish Sarah was watching right now. But look for the Minnesota Vikings to be a tough out this year. I'm not saying they're going to win 10 games or anything like that, but I think that people are just going to assume, because everybody's predicted, including myself, that they're going to finish at the bottom of the division. And I still think they're going to finish at the bottom of the division. But I do believe that Minnesota is going to pack a harder punch than people think. Brian Flores is the real deal defensive coordinator. He puts good defenses together. They got a lot of good pieces that I think fit the way that he likes to coach the defense. And I don't know. I think that Minnesota might be a sleeper team in that. Now, the Chicago Bears, all of the faith comes out of players and talent. I mean, Eberflus could either be saved by the greatness of Caleb Williams and all these skill players, or Eberflus might be looking for a job at the end of the season, because if he can't put this together, they're going to fire him because he hasn't proven to be a good coach. He couldn't get anything out of Justin Fields. And if he doesn't have Caleb Williams bail him out, I don't really think he's that good of a coach. So the Chicago Bears, to me, are completely dependent upon talent. Like the talent has to rise above the coaching. And it's happened before. You can, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but that's where the confidence comes in. And the Packers are a lot like the Lions in this way, where they draft and develop. Now, the Packers have been doing it longer than the Lions have. They've been drafting and developing for years. Next man up, let the guys go. They don't ever, they're not big free agency spenders because they like to pay their own guys. This is the unsexy way that just keeps breeding success. And they're used to it. But the Lions are doing it now too. We're drafting and developing and paying our own players. And I have one more thing that I wanted to get to before I get out of here. And I'm going to get the music up for this because I forgot to talk about this, but I had a topic in my mind with Over the Cap. gotta find it. Let me bring up over the cap right here. And the Lions have a lot of cap space right now, and a lot of people are kind of wondering why. You know what I'm saying? Like, why aren't you spending this money? Why aren't you extending this player and that player, or whatever? And there's a couple things that I found on over the cap that might answer those questions, and I guess I really didn't see this. And this really is going to play to the part where I think that Brad Holmes is a genius in the way that he puts contracts together. And I'm not Roseman. I can't remember who our contract guy is, but whoever's putting those contracts. So hold on one second. I'm sorry. I swear I'm dyslexic. I can't do two things at the same time. When I'm looking down through here at like Marcus Davenport, you see Marcus Davenport down here? The way they have his contract structured this year, right? You got $2.5 million, and then you got this bonus, then you got a workout bonus, and then the cap number, right? And these bonuses, the way that they work, here's the number that I really want you to look at right here. This is a roster bonus. This is a per game bonus. Look at this number. This is why Brad Holmes is the best GM in the NFL. It's little stuff like this. Look at that. Like, Marcus Davenport is a high-end player when he's playing, when he's out there. But the problem has always been is that you're never out there. Now, here's a roster bonus that he's going to get of $850,000. Is that per game? Per game. So when they say that he has the opportunity to make money here, he does. He does. Like, they only are on the hook for the $2.5 million and the $2.2 million. That's the signing bonus. This will happen if he's on the roster, on the active roster next year. And this is his per game bonus. Which means that they're only going to pay him for the games that he plays, those little bonuses. Other than that, he's going to make a pedestrian salary. So there is no risk on the injury with Marcus Davenport. Now, you do have a giant hole on your roster if he does get injured. But why is this important? It's important because Marcus Davenport bet on himself with this contract. He knows that he's not going to get paid unless he's available and plays these games. Now, there's other markers that he has to hit. That's the simple of it to get that $850,000 in the game. It isn't just him being in the game. He's got to play a certain amount of snaps. He's got to, I don't know what type of production is tied to that. And the same thing can be said with the DJ Reader signing. Is they didn't put very much risk. See these numbers? 1.2, 1.2, only a $5 million cap hit. And they got the good roster bonus in there. DJ Reader's, his contract is done in the same way. I'll show you. DJ Reader, $1.2 million. The base salary, 1.2, and the signing bonus, the roster bonus, and then 1.2 million per game. So these guys aren't expensive unless they're in and they're playing. And guess what? Both these players are studs when they're playing. How does Brad Holmes do that? Yeah, you can come in. I know you got ability, but if you don't play, you don't get paid. You good with that? And they signed it. Those are the type of contracts that you aren't going to get signed if you're a bottom 5 team in the NFL. Nobody wants to take chances like that. DJ Reader could have gotten $20+ million a year. And he could get up to that if he plays a certain amount of these snaps. Now, there's only a certain amount of guaranteed money, so don't worry about it. It's not, no, they aren't going to have to pay him $25 million if he plays in all 17 of those games. There's a cap on that. Whatever the number is in the contract. But that's what I wanted to hit with the last one. I mean, on the replay, if you're watching this on the replay, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the way they're constructing these contracts? Both Marcus Davenport and DJ Reader have a per game bonus that isn't guaranteed. That all these contracts can be up to a certain amount. Roster cuts are looming. That's what we talked about today. The Lions Villain Report. 10 a.m. every morning. You gonna watch the game this week? The very first ever Lion Villain cast with yours truly, Russell Wayne. Coverage starts at 12:30. I would love to watch the game or part of the game with you. I have so much fun on here talking with y'all. I have a lot of fun on here talking with y'all. So join me. I'm about ready to turn into a pumpkin. So it's faith, family, and then football. You know, we love the people. We love the people no matter what. I don't care. If you're a Bear fan, I can love you. If you're a Viking fan, I can love you as a person. If you're a Packer fan, I can love you as a person because it's faith, family, and then football. I can think your team sucks, which it's going to this year when they play us, but that's okay because I can still love you as a person because it's faith, family, and then football. Use football. Spend time with your family. Use football to create memories with your family. Don't let football use you. And may the Lord bless you. And may the Lord keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you until we meet again. Football talk. Lion Villain Report. Peace out.
Yo, the lies so that you never make it. Hopeless, so it seems. Eyes closed, candles open wide to embrace your dreams. Sometimes you gotta take a loss just to get the win. Like lots of sin was popping in like oxygen when boxes wet. Focus on the mental, never lose like smooth instrumental. Better choose on the move in a pinto. Choose when I get to, never lose smooth on the move, but it's simple. Never give up and we winning it maybe. We just keep winning, we conquering daily. Envision that pay me, it's never to sway me. Indigenous, maybe we winning, it's crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, it's your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, it's your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, it's your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity.